Ayurveda has a way of looking at our daily schedule. They call it Dinacharya. There are ways that we can support ourselves and our nervous system through the schedules that we keep, basically. And some of those have to do with sleep, which we've been working with a bit already. Some of them have to do with what we eat and when we eat, and getting enough exercise, doing regular practice, relaxations. So I thought maybe it would be helpful just to give a simple overview of that so that we're not maybe feeling as overwhelmed as we sometimes can. The Ayurvedic clock, which we've looked at before, outlines ideal times to do the different daily patterns that we do. So in order to sleep most effectively, it's good to be to bed and sleeping before 10 p.m. That helps us to go to sleep in the kapha time when we're more stable and more easily settled, and when we're tireder. If we go past 10 p.m., we often get our second wind. We're into the pitta time, which is more energetic, more fiery. We often can get quite productive during those hours, but then we're not getting the sleep that we need. Digestion in Ayurveda is something that we look at as both physical. It's really good to be sleeping during the 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. time because it helps us to digest our food. Our bodies have certain tasks that they need to perform, and that's the ideal time for them to perform them. If our physical digestion is good, then we tend to have better health, of course. We don't have as much toxicity in our systems, and everything works more efficiently. We also look at emotional digestion of our experiences, and that in sleep happens through dreaming. So if we're able to sleep during that time, we'll have more efficient digestion of our experiences as well. And then to get up before 6 a.m., once we get into the 6 to 10 a.m. period, we are more sluggish. We're into that kapha time. It's harder to get up and get moving. When we wake up, we might feel kind of stunned or really sleepy. So to try and get up before 6 a.m., ideally they say, 4:30, 5 o'clock. That might seem kind of early for a lot of people. The natural rhythms that have evolved through our whole evolution, these are that we tend to go to bed at night when it gets dark and we get up in the morning at dawn. Those rhythms have worked for millennia. Now that we have electric lights and we have glowing screens and all of those other things, we can stay up all night if we want. And our bodies aren't really adapted to use that pattern, other patterns, so as well as they are to use the sleep from 10 p.m. to sometime before 6 a.m. The other major component of a schedule is our food. So we talk about having a hot drink in the morning before we get up and do anything else to wake up the digestion. So when we have a hot drink, it could be hot water. You could add some lemon to that. It could be that you would just have that before you have coffee or something else, or it could be that you would have that instead. I also do hot water with some turmeric and coconut oil. The coconut oil helps the turmeric to be digested. So that's an option that people can do as well. So I don't drink usually plain hot water. I generally drink hot water with about a teaspoon of turmeric and a teaspoon of coconut oil. That's another good option as well. And then we have a couple of pretty simple patterns that we can do in the morning around our mouth and nose. So one of them is a tongue scraper. It's a U-shaped metal piece that we use to scrape the tongue, and we start from the back and go to the front. The advice is to do that first thing in the morning when you wake up. So I just keep mine in my bathroom. I scrape my tongue 2 or 3 times. That gets off the ama. Ama is a coating that's on the tongue. Most people are familiar with that by when you wake up in the morning, you have morning breath, and if you look at your tongue, it can seem kind of fuzzy, and sometimes the color is like you have a white coating on your tongue, sometimes it's yellow or some other color. But that coating on your tongue is ama, and it's the release of toxins and different things that your body can't use through the night. And if you don't scrape that off of your tongue, then it just gets reabsorbed into your body during the day. So it's a really good idea to use a tongue scraper. Some people brush their tongue. It's not very recommended to do that because it can be too hard on the taste buds. So just to do a gentle scraping of the tongue from back to front 2 or 3 times, and then brush your teeth. So most people brush their teeth when they first get up anyway, so this is just one really little simple step to do before that. And then after that, if you wanted to do some oil pulling, take some sesame oil. You don't need too much because it tends to expand in your mouth with your saliva. Take, maybe a teaspoon or so of sesame oil, and then just swish it around in your mouth. You can leave that going for, 5 minutes or longer. You don't swallow it at the end because the sesame oil pulls toxins out of your mouth. You could do that and just, while you're having a shower or something else. That's that's another fairly simple step to add. It doesn't take a lot of preparation. You just have the sesame oil handy. Take about a teaspoon, put it in your mouth and swish it around for a few minutes and then spit it out. There's a whole practice of Abhyanga, which is a warm oil massage. That takes a little bit more. So we're not going to really cover that in detail here, but what it really involves is warming up some oil. You need some clothes that you don't mind if they get oily. You need a towel or something for your floor. And there's a whole method of doing it, working from, the center inwards, and I'm not going to go into all the details of that here. I find personally that I really benefit from it while I do it. If I do it regularly, my skin gets a lot healthier. Oiling is a bigger commitment than you wait for 10 or 15 minutes and then you have a shower. So I would say that would be something that would be really good to start to add in once in a while, but not to feel the pressure. It's so easy when we're making these changes in our lifestyles to feel like if I don't do them all, I'm not doing it right, and then we just kind of give up on the whole thing because it seems too hard. The other practice that's pretty simple, especially these days, is the nasal wash. We can use a neti pot, and there's Yoga International and other places have lots of good demonstrations of how to use a neti pot. What I've been using more recently for the last, 5 years or so, is you can buy things at the drugstore that already have the little packets that you use. If you're using a nasal wash, or if you're making your own solution, it's warm water with non-iodized salt. Don't use iodine in your salt or it will sting the mucous membranes. But if you can just buy them at the drugstore. They have these squeeze bottles. The one I use now just has a squeeze bottle. It has a tip on the end. You just put it in one nostril. So you fill it up with the warm, non-iodized salty water. You put the lid on, put it up to one nostril, squeeze it, put the other nostril, squeeze it. You're obviously doing this over the sink so that you can let the water flow through. And as you're blowing your nose and releasing the water after, there's sometimes a bit stuck in there. Just make sure that you don't close off one nostril and then the other. You want to have a kind of an open snort through both nostrils so that you're not going to hurt your inner ears by creating pressure of closing one nostril and then the other. So this would be a fairly simple morning routine. Get up before 6 if you can. Do the tongue scraper before you brush your teeth. If you want to add in the oil pulling, a teaspoon or so of sesame oil. Swish it around in your mouth for a few minutes and spit it out into the garbage. Use some kind of nasal wash, either the neti pot or one of the squeeze bottles that you can buy at the drugstore now. Neil Med is a good one that I've used. Then when you could do your practice, you could do some yoga or some breathing, whatever it is that you do. And when you eat, the idea with eating during the day is to have your largest meal at noon and to have your right nostril open before you eat. So we've done a lot of work on alternate nostril breathing. So there's lots of guided practices that you could do. If you need to eat on a schedule and your left nostril is open and not your right, you could open your right nostril if you want. You could do some alternate nostril breathing. You could lie down on your left side and focus your attention on the flow of the breath in the right nostril. So ideally, we're doing any eating that we do, ideally we have our right nostril open. And the largest meal being between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. is when the pitta is the most active. The sun is also at its highest. Our digestion is strongest. Then a lighter meal in the evening, and then trying to get to bed sometime before 10 o'clock. The way I do the bedtime is I've noticed that if I turn my screens off around 9 and do something that doesn't involve a glowing screen, then I'm more likely to be able to settle by 10. Oftentimes I'll do a relaxation at night. Might be something that I do on my own, or it might be something I'm listening to a guided practice. I also listen to a guided practice in the morning before I even get out of bed. After I do the tongue scraping, go to the bathroom, I go back to bed usually, and just lay in bed and listen to one of the guided practices on my YouTube channel. The Shatali Karna is a favorite of mine, where you're doing the point-to-point breathing. And I don't have a schedule where I have to get up with an alarm, so normally speaking, when I wake up, I'm awake. If you're waking up really tired, then you might just kind of fall back to sleep if you do that, so it might not work as well. So there are some suggestions for a daily routine that can support your nervous system, can support your health. Another option to add in is some kind of relaxation practice if you don't want to do it before you go to bed. And if you're working out in the world during the day especially, it can be a nice transition. 5 minutes, 10 minutes to lie down when you get home from work and do some relaxation, get in touch with your breathing, and allow yourself to refresh a bit before you move into the evening part of your day.